Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Got an interesting set of articles lined up for tonight's festivities. As usual, my co-pilot, sitting in the hot seat, none other than the Gray Wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric Smith. How you tonight, Eric?
I am doing well, Matt.
That is some good opening music, man. I nailed it on that, right? I mean,
I love it.
It works.
Yeah, man. I don't think I'd ever want it to be different.
No,
I wouldn't.
It was sad. When I got the new studio headphones. They're not marked right and left. And when I first put them on, I'm like, man, these sound weird. And then I went, wait a minute, and I flipped them around, and I was listening to the podcast, like the opening stuff, and it was just bizarre. It didn't sound right, but when I flipped them left and right, I was like, oh yeah, there it is.
Cassie said not to change the logo ever.
That we use for the show?
Mm-hmm. Like with the mic and the lightning and the blue and the...
really? She likes that,
so
huh?
was that papyrus script? Is that what you're using?
Yeah, it's like a papyrus script, right? Yeah, it kind of works.
Yeah, she liked it.
It's funny because there's been a lot more thought put into that shit than people might actually suspect, because I felt that it had like that treasure map sort of vibe to it when I picked that.
Yeah.
And I thought that kind of fit with the sort of motif of the show, which was, we're the treasure we're looking for is knowledge. Not that it's specifically predefined or anything like that, but that it's always a treasure. So that's why I sort of picked that script. That's bizarre. I never thought this would come up, man.
Yeah, it did.
Wow. Okay. Well, somebody noticed.
So keep all that the same.
Okay.
Keep everything good.
Sherfu was actually telling me, he sent me a message and he was saying that he liked the Facebook video when you go to our Facebook page, because I animated it and it's got so everything that what's her name, Cassie? Hey, shout out Cassie.
Hi, Cassie.
Everything that Cassie's talking about is animated then on the Facebook page. So it's like you can see it moving around and stuff. And Sherfu was like something about, I find your Facebook, page video mesmerizing or something like that.
Yeah, pretty cool, yeah.
I was like, hey, cool, man. Then I pulled it off, because that's exactly what I was shooting for, was that, when you look at this stuff, that, that it's interesting, kind of thing. So that was my point. I don't know. I went down a wormhole here. I don't know if it's...
it's my fault. On to rattlesnakes and uranium.
Well, that's the question, right? Is what do rattlesnakes, uranium, and whiskey all have in common, other than being the subject for a topic on our podcast?
Right, yeah. Other than those things probably all being in Florida.
And what's scary about this, man, is this is a legit AP news article, so Associated Press.
This could be on NPR.
Not this.
No, but the story.
This could never be on NPR. This is from Guthrie, Oklahoma. Police in Oklahoma say they found a rattlesnake, a canister of radioactive powdered uranium, and an open bottle of Kentucky Deluxe whiskey during a traffic stop.
One of those was for the rattlesnake.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
I think that this is one of those things that was ultimately like an unfortunate incident, right? Like he didn't... I bet we're going to find out.
He didn't plan on having the uranium and the rattlesnake together.
Well, this is
at the same time,
right? It's like, what the fuck do you have powdered uranium for? Police in Oklahoma say they found a rattlesnake, a canister of radioactive powdered uranium, and an open bottle of Kentucky Deluxe whiskey during a traffic stop of a vehicle that had been reported stolen.
None of these things are mine.
This is the culmination of some sort of weird Hollywood plot, man. It has to be. Okay, so the traffic stop happened June 26th in Guthrie, about 30 miles north of Oklahoma City. Guthrie Police Sergeant Anthony Gibbs told Oklahoma City TV station KFOR that police don't know why the uranium was in the vehicle or how it was obtained, though uranium ore can be bought on Amazon.
Wow. Right on.
I mean,
I don't think I'd ever have a need for it, but
is that a loophole? Of course, you got to refine it, I guess, is the other side of the equation. The ore itself is probably pretty much harmless.
I know very little about it. About uranium.
Myself.
Yeah.
But that's alarming as shit. It's
Yeah,
like,
it is.
wait a minute, stolen car, uranium, what? Huh? Gibbs says police also found a gun in the console of a...
I love how all these other things made the gun inconsequential. Yeah, we also found the gun. Yeah, of course you found the gun. It's the rattlesnake and the uranium that was crazy.
I mean, what the hell is going on in Oklahoma? Well, here's the killer, right? Gibbs police, of all the things that's weird about this, Gibbs says police also found a gun in the console, right? Mm-hmm. And a terrarium in the back seat containing a pet timber rattlesnake.
I see. Clearly this guy was moving.
Gibbs says the driver, Stephen Jennings, was charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, transporting an open container of liquor, and driving with a suspended license.
Oh my God.
Notably absent from the list of crimes is anything to do with the uranium.
That is unfortunate.
Am I missing something here, man?
Yeah, well, not unless it says something about that later.
Jennings remains jailed in Logan County. That's the story, man. That's from the Associated Press.
Well, I don't know, man. I would have told the officer, look, I'm moving. I didn't steal this car. It's my friend's car whose house I'm moving out of. The terrarium with the rattlesnake is mine. It's my pet. His name is Harry. And I have no idea. I found the uranium in the truck, too. I thought it was a thermos full of coffee. You can have some if you like. The gun is mine.
I guess what bothers me about that whole train of thought is that you've actually planned this out. So this isn't like...
I'm just saying that's the only likely thing I can think of. Like, I can't imagine how... I think, like, clearly this guy must have been moving or something. He's got his pet snake in a terrarium, and he put his gun in the glove compartment, and he split with his friend's truck.
Right? I mean, what is the story?
It's got to be a story. I hope it's something like that.
Ties all of this shit together. Like, this has got to be a movie of some sort. This is a plot.
Yeah, this should all come together in the end somewhere and make some kind of sense.
It's fucking crazy, right? When I saw that, I was like, well, I don't even know what this is about, but this is going on the show.
The title alone is worth it.
I had to put it on.
Yeah.
Like, how do you pass that up? You remember that Instagrammer that we were talking about that bottled her bathwater?
Yeah.
That was like the last podcast, actually. I think so.
I think you're right.
So, I've got some data on the results of that.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
According to the headline from Insider, people are drinking. Remember we were like asking, what are they going to do with this? Well, I have an answer.
They're going to drink it.
People are drinking an Instagram star's $30 per bottle bathwater and calling it, quote, salty and candy-like.
What in the hell is candy-like about anybody's bathwater?
Did you watch the video? Because I haven't watched the video or anything associated with this other than reading the articles. But in the picture where she's wearing this like gamer girl outfit with the weird bunny ears or cat ears or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Next to this poor, desperate, geeky looking person drinking something.
With a badge of someone crying on him.
Well, I think that badge is actually her because it's got the cat ears and it's all pink and everything. So I wonder if that's the...
It looks like it's crying.
But I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. But anyway... there was someplace I was going with all this. Now I don't fucking remember what it was.
It's probably unhealthy. to be drinking that water.
Well, yeah.
Because I wonder how long it took to be mailed there that wouldn't get bacteria growing.
Oh, and anyway, I was saying about this photo. There's no point in this photo where it shows her using any kind of actually taking a bath or to bathe. It looks like she's just sitting in a tub of clear water.
Yeah, like there's no soap in it or nothing.
And then while she's in it, she's filling these plastic containers herself.
It's very ritualistic, all of this.
Okay, make the connection.
It's just, it's very much a lot about symbols and stuff. She's not really taking a bath. She's just sitting in the bath water. And because she's sitting in it, she purifies it, makes it holy. And then she's able to bottle it up and give it to people who drink it and ingest it inside of them with that sort of...
You're feeling like there's an archetype attached to all of this somehow.
It just looks like that. Yeah, it looks like that. It's like transubstantiation that the Catholics have, it's or when you eat the holy wafer and stuff and it becomes the actual flesh of God inside of you and
the body and blood and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so here you got this person drinking it, she's really not taking a bath. She's just kind of making it to her essence, and they're trying to drink her essence into them. And obviously on a scientific level, it's all crap, but I mean, it's very ritualistic aside from that.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't understand from somebody that works right in the food and beverage industry kind of thing. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking of things like where there's terms of art called hot fill, where you bottle product over 165 degrees or basically over the temperature with which bacteria can survive.
Right. It can't be that hot while she's sitting in.
Pasteurization issues. And I'm willing to bet that none of this has been put through any of those types of. But didn't she say that it's for intimate purposes and not to be eaten or something?
I do remember it was not supposed to be ingested.
Instagram star Belle Delphine, recently made waves for selling her bathwater online for $30 a bottle.
Made waves, ha ha.
The product's description states that, quote, "This water is not for drinking and should only be used for sentimental purposes."
Yep.
It is fucking weird that I remembered that.
Well, you probably thought that's the only way it made it even near safe to do.
But that isn't stopping people from taking a sip.
Nope.
Oh, this is the world we live in, Eric.
Yeah.
Or at least part of it, I should say. I shouldn't be so fatalistic. YouTuber Pyro Cynical.
Oh, I feel bad now. If he ever hears this, he's going to be mad at that laugh. Sorry. Please say his name again.
Pyro Cynical.
That's pretty awesome.
Let's break that down. Pyro, fire, cynical.
Someone who doesn't think that anyone does anything altruistically out of the goodness of their heart.
Does that mean nobody sets fires out of the altruistic nation of their heart?
That's what I would take it literally to mean. It's a very pragmatic statement.
That is a very specific thing.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it is. I guess, it's
a little weird.
Yeah, it's no weirder than what he's doing with the drinking water.
Of all the things to hang your name on is being pissed at people that don't set fires that believe in them.
He looks like in the process of drinking her water and that transubstantiation that he's becoming one of her minions. She looks like the kind of person that might have minions.
I think that we're being generous with the word he here, and we should probably be careful with that.
Oh, well, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, just say.
I'm sitting far away from the screen. YouTuber
Pyrocynical.
Here we go again with the laugh. We're sorry.
Reached out to Delphine 19 for a jar of the sold out bathwater, and she sent him one right away. Him. Okay. All right. So the article's saying that now.
Woo.
He decided to ignore the product's warning label and drink it on camera in a video posted Sunday. Oh, I know, living on the edge, right?
Oh,
there are people that go up Mount Everest. Pussies.
Yeah, those guys don't drink her water, though, do they?
It's quote, "It's so salty," he said when sniffing the bathwater. Things smell salty?
Bathwater sniff.
I think he's saying it smells like the ocean.
I guess.
That would be like the first indication not to drink it, don't you think?
Yep.
Quote, "That's definitely been in a bath, 100%. That is rotten. That is stagnant water." He then goes on to actually drink the water, which he immediately spits out. When he finally takes a gulp, his reaction is less than enthusiastic. Quote, "Thank God we have free health care over here because I'm going straight to the doctors after this video." Oh, God. The UK-based YouTuber says before taking another sip, quote, "I feel really sick right now."
That poor bastard. I don't know, man. You shouldn't.
Are we? Maybe I'm wrong, man. Maybe I shouldn't be putting these kind of articles because this is probably the exact type of notoriety that someone this fucking stupid. I'm sorry, this ill-informed, wants from. It's like the kind of person that's willing to wrestle a bear.
Yeah.
Why am I doing it? Because they, because
there's going to be 10 people filming it. That's
right.
Why.
Yeah. And that's not good.
Well, it's if he could have swallowed it.
Or do I look at it? Do I look at it this way? Maybe you know what? Maybe I'm looking at this completely wrong, Eric. Maybe the way I should be looking at this is that this person has done this now, and anybody that has any questions as to what this actually is now has an answer from firsthand experience. Thereby,
not need to do it.
They won't need to do it, and this kind of strange phenomena can finally stop since there's empirical sort of evidence to the result. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah, I hope other people in the future look at it that way. I hope they realize this guy said, "Look, I got to go to the doctors now because I drank this." The next prudent thing to do is to go to the doctor.
I mean, can you? I shouldn't even be asking these questions, but is it possible that you can contract an STD from drinking bathwater?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know why my brain goes there automatically, but this whole thing just seems a little strange to me, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not very progressive in that way, I guess. He says he received an email after placing the order from Delphine asking him to reply that he understood that, quote, "the water should not be consumed, poured upon my body, or opened should the seal be broken." Nash finally received the package. So basically, he's a dumbass because he went against every warning that was given.
It would appear that way.
Maybe it's just like they mixed up a bathwater with a bunch of Epsom salts, like shipped it out.
Who knows, man? Who knows what he drank? It could have been anything.
Yeah. Spectrometry. What do they call that? That analysis?
Spectrometry.
Yeah, spectrometry would tell us what it is.
Yeah.
Nash finally received the package days later, and he was initially struck by the, quote, "murky appearance of the water and its strange smell." Upon tasting the water, he wrote that it had a, quote, "sweet candy-like taste with traces of salt."
It's like, it's going to kill you. When you die at 43, there's going to be a doctor like, "Did you ever ingest any kind of strange water or anything like that? Because we found this organism in your gut. It looks like it's been there for like a decade. It's the strangest thing we've ever seen."
There's definitely a part of me that doesn't actually think we should be panning this and should actually kind of be encouraging this kind of behavior. Because tell me this doesn't have a way of thinning the gene pool out a little bit, right? Like, is this the modern version of being tracked and hunted by wolves? You know what I mean? When you do something stupid.
Well,
and now this is just the modern version of it. We probably should be letting the process of natural selection weed some of this stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I think
out
it
of
is.
The gene pool.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that fatalistic? I think it's a little fatalistic, Eric.
I was talking with Cassie about the people who's going to march on Area 51.
Oh, I got articles about that coming up. Yeah, so tell Cassie to hang on, dude.
Yeah, I will.
Seriously, tell her to hang on. We
hang
got
on,
that.
Cassie.
I mean, seriously, we have that coming up real quick.
Hang on, Cassie.
But
Cassie,
anyway, so bring that anecdote back out when we cover that,
Yep.
okay? Let's see here. Nash finally received the package days later and was initially struck by the murky appearance, blah, blah, blah. Upon tasting the water, blah, blah, blah. Quote, didn't feel too great after drinking it yesterday, you dumb shit. That's my addition. Nash told us, but I'm doing okay today. And that, I'm sorry to say, Eric, is unfortunate. Nash says he still wouldn't recommend actually consuming the bath water, even though his side effects didn't last. Quote,
you would not recommend it.
All in all, I wouldn't recommend others to drink any of Belle Delphine's bathwater because it can make you feel a bit sick, he told us. So there's the PSA, folks. When don't drink bottled bathwater. You poor, stupid, dumb fuckers. So, from Unilad, 470,000 people are planning to storm Area 51 and form an outrageous plan.
They've got 3 waves, it looks like, according to the diagram, or I see a 4th.
Listen, yeah, dude, I mean, I was panning the shit out of this. I was like, oh, this is getting really weirdly organized here, and I am now not putting myself in the middle of anything that happens here. Okay?
Yeah, you never even replied to the meme I gave you there about that. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
I saw it. Sure.
I didn't see you reply.
Man, I love you, brother. I would never ignore you.
This is the natural selection. Cassie was calling this natural selection. Me and her, and I assume you are convinced that the government has the kind of weapons to still deal with this situation of 470,000 civilians.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, we all know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're called thermonuclear weapons.
I don't think you even need those, man. I'm sure some jets and bombs would be enough to take care of that situation.
This is bizarre, bro. I got to tell you. And what's really ironic here is this comes right on the heels of, boy, that's the wrong way to say this. I'm making an announcement right now, I guess, is that Gareth Samuel is going to be on the show Saturday morning specifically to talk about that podcast from Rogan and the documentary with Bob Lazar. Because Gareth's an actual freaking physicist. And so he's going to be on Saturday morning. It's all tied into this Area 51 stuff, right? And then this comes out, because you had said on the last podcast, it was like, I don't know, it was
20,000, I think, last time
it was
I checked.
and we were like, you know?
Now it's 470,000.
And now it's 470 fucking thousand people.
Might even still have it.
This is nuts, man. This is actually from Unilad.
53,000 people is what it said earlier.
Well, Unilad says it's 470,000, so it's almost 500,000 people. And there are some logistics involved in this that I'm interested in. But
you want to see this play out, do you?
Yeah, man. Like, how do you get that many people to such a secluded area? Just the logistics of which may take days to accomplish or whatever. But yeah, like this is really freaking interesting. Is there going to be caravans rolling out to the Southwest here?
I had made the comment when we had this discussion that, you know, a lot of people accuse people who believe in Area 51 and all that that they want to continue the conspiracy, right? But clearly these people have had enough of the conspiracy. Like, they want to know the truth. They're not trying to perpetuate a continuous situation. I at least respect that. Like, there's a lot of people that really want to know. And that's, I think that it's important because, you know, I understand why, but I also feel like, you know, the government has the right to hide certain things from the public in terms of the safety of the public, right? Because there's probably some things that the military deals with that the general public shouldn't have access to.
And there's so many people who would rightly say, and I'm not saying right or wrong, that is the path in which treachery lies, right? Is ultimately, once you have the ability to hide things, you will hide things, right? You know what I mean? So I get arguments on the both sides, and I'm not trying to dissuade that, but this whole thing has been steeped in mystery for so long.
People have had enough.
So it says, clearly bored with discussing conspiracy theories in dingy corners of the internet, flat Earth, Princess Diana, and steel beams, a large group of alien enthusiasts are planning to uncover the secrets of Area 51 once and for all. Armed with pebbles and Naruto runners, I don't know what that is.
Me either.
Naruto runners. Thousands of people are seemingly gearing up to storm the highly classified United States Air Force facility to finally see them aliens. Sure, it seems as likely as a UFO parking up outside your new building terrace, but these keen folks have mapped out a detailed plan based on a simple premise, quote, they can't stop all of us. I wonder if that's going to be one of them, I don't know, famous last words kind of thing.
God,
I sure hope not.
It reminds me of the original Shadowrun book, the story where they were talking about how things ended up with the change in the world and magic and stuff when all of the people were doing this Indian dance, and at that moment the government opened up fire on them and stuff. It's crazy. It's like all these people are showing up, and I'm worried. I don't know what's going to happen. Would they fire on them? Because if they did, that would be a contragraphy for sure, man. That would be a big deal. And if they don't, then how are they going to stop them if they don't fire on them?
It's got to be a really exciting time for you as somebody who is a lover of history and a historian. Because what you're kind of watching now, right?
And a skeptic of alien life.
Well, no.
It makes a lot of irony in it for me, honestly.
I'm over here trying to be all fucking altruist.
I'm just saying, it's weird, man. I can't figure it out. Go ahead.
No, yeah. What I'm getting at, great though with that point, but I guess I'm kind of getting at is that because what you're literally seeing is a divergence from the track of what has been common history throughout the ages, is in the way that there has definitely been a cycle. Right? As a historian, am I making this up? But you can kind of see how societies evolve and how cultures evolve. And there's definitely a pattern to that, correct?
Sure, yeah, over long periods of time, yeah.
But what we're seeing now with the advent of technology is sort of a forking off of that road, right? Into sort of, okay, we really don't know what happens here now when everybody can see everything all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah, because you're talking about the ability to even organize in a situation like this. This has been a conspiracy based on the lack and an inability to organize people who were enthusiasts of it.
I have this question, man. This is the question I was going to. What's his name? Dr. Niven?
Uh-huh.
The question I wanted to kind of frame for him was how much of a role. Because I have this theory, and the theory is that as the availability of information to more people has increased, right? Mm-hmm. What we have historically seen is a trend towards a, how do I frame this? Like a more open or thus freer type of society. I think that the printing press had as much to do with the American Revolution as anything else.
Yeah.
As certainly as much as the musket had to do with the winning of that. And so as someone who like him who knows history and he knows very specific things about history that sort of play into this.
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't he a specialist in
he's an American historian, and he's a specialty in Nixon. Okay.
Well, so a big part of Nixon was how the media played into that. Again, this goes back to a theory of the availability of information. You follow me? Okay. Yeah. And now the problem I think that's being had by the reason why I have this theory that that's tied into that, right? That the reason why the whole world seems to be going crazy, right? is that the when you take the multitude of all the information ever collected by all of humanity, and you make that information available to an enormous portion of the population at literally their fingertips in the form of a cell phone or a smartphone, what did you think was going to actually happen when people can just see, this information and ask a question and get a clarification or multiple angles of clarification on any issue at any time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, this was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, all hell is going to break loose. The thought that, and what was funny was because I personally was one of those people that believed that the increase in the use and availability of information and technology was going to somehow have this opposite effect. Like, it was going to have this calming, sort of rationalizing effect on society. And it very much may still have that effect. But before that happens, there's going to be a lot of really, really pissed off people. We're going to have to kind of go through that first. You know what I mean?
Trying to demand questions about aliens.
Right. Well, because all of these everybody who thought they were just some sort of, or were marginalized onto the fringes of society. Because let's talk about the numbers here, right? So these people that are going to storm Area 51 are 470,000 people. Now, in the grander scheme of things, there's 330 million people in this country, at least. So that's not even 1 million. So that's not even 1/330th. It's half that. It's like 1/660th of the population is willing.
You want to sign up with me?
God, no, I don't want nothing to do with
Why?
this.
We could go down and I could observe it as a historical event.
I was in the military.
They'll draft you back in for this. They'll need help.
No, I don't mean it that way. I already largely have seen with my own eyes what is on and happens on military bases. Okay? It's boring. I'm not interested. I'm not even remotely interested.
You don't think there's aliens there?
I don't. This goes back to that whole conversation, bro, about closing doors and being on the wrong side of history. Okay? And I've got other articles, bitch. Don't think I don't.
Oh,
okay? I do. 'Cause I got other stuff coming up here. Okay? I'm just saying. But from that standpoint, no, I'm not interested in storming Area 51. I'm not interested. I've been in Fallon, Nevada. I've done operations in the Navy in Fallon, Nevada. I know what the desert is like out there. I've worked in it. I'm not fucking interested. I'm not even a little bit interested in this. Okay?
The lure of aliens is not enough to make you go walk out in the desert.
if they have half this many people legitimately show up, I will do a fucking podcast 100% dedicated to this subject.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
I will do it. You and I will do a podcast where we do nothing but talk about different alien conspiracies and the storming of Area 51
Absolutely.
and the follow-up from that. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
But I just don't think that's going to actually happen.
No. I don't know what would, if you would have asked me last year, I don't know what would have been less probable if it would have been that you were telling me that these hundreds of thousands of people or whatever it is going to storm Area 51, or if it was that these people were going to hire a ship and a captain to go to the edge of the world to see if the ice barrier. Like I have,
right.
I'd be like, well, I don't know. I think I would have probably picked the Area 51.
Isn't it an amazing fucking time to be alive?
It
Mr.
is.
Smith?
It definitely is. Yeah. Like if you get to the three things that's like this, we've got two. We've got these two, right? If there becomes one other weird, improbable thing, I don't know what. I can't even think what it would be. Or well, I don't know. Like maybe like say you've heard about CERN open. We talked about CERN.
The portals, right?
Yeah,
or to another dimension kind of.
Yeah,
situation.
we need just something like that to tie it in. Like we found some other dimension, and we're going to send a probe in. It's like Just give me one more improbable thing, and we will have hit the mass that's needed for me to be like, okay, it's all on.
Well, maybe, and I'm telling you, bro, I've got other shit lined up tonight that's going to blow your fucking mind.
All right.
I'm just telling you.
All right.
They've even set a date for their interplanetary war for 20th September 2019. And we'll meet up at the Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and, quote, coordinate entry. Now, the joke that I made about this was that you know why they're doing that, right?
Having the date stated?
Well, no, that they're meeting up at this Alien Center. Is
to see how many people show up to see if they're actually going to go through with it.
Right. Yeah. It's not like, hey, we're storming at this time and I'm going no matter what, right? So the military precision in this is really impressive. Taking to the storm Area 51, they can't stop all of us Facebook group. The ringleader suggests, quote, if we, again, narrow to run, we can move faster than their bullets. Okay, dude, I've got to Google this because I don't know what this means. You should be Googling this. What was it? Narrow to.
I feel like it's an Indian term, but I don't know.
Narrow to.
Like, did you mean? What is it? What the hell?
Wikipedia. That's usually a good source for information.
I didn't like any of the pictures that showed up.
That was a little creepy, right?
Yeah.
Like
I still don't like any of the pictures.
It's a Japanese manga series. It's a cartoon. You're going to storm a fucking Air Force base in a cartoon style?
I still don't understand.
Is a manga series written and illustrated by Masashi Kashimoto. It tells the story of Naruto Uzumaki, a young ninja who searches for recognition from his peers and also dreams of becoming the Hokage, the leader of his village. Why didn't you just say that? The story is in two parts. The first set in Naruto's preteen years and the second in his teens. The series is based on two one-shot manga by Kishimoto.
Wait, is this actually connected to that? Or is just something
it's
weird?
Yeah, this is the guy that's telling people to storm a highly secure Air Force base, military base, is telling them to do it in this style. He says, okay. Taking to the storm Area 51, they can't stop all of us Facebook group, the ringleader.
I love that term.
Suggests, quote, if we narrow to run, we can move faster than their bullets. If anybody gets hurt doing this,
it's because they didn't run fucking fast enough.
Well, no. I mean,
clearly,
this dude, listen, this guy owns the responsibility for this at this point.
Yeah.
Oh my God, bro. Like this was a joke last week. This is serious shit.
Maybe it won't even happen, dude.
I sure hope it doesn't. Okay, this doesn't seem legit or safe, but let's humor the adventurers for a second. Area 51, a large and extremely secure military Air Force unit, has been the subject of many alien conspiracy theories for decades, with some believing it supports the testing of UFO and extraterrestrial beings. Let's face it, we'd all like to know what's really going on in the Nevada desert, but is it worth taking a potential bullet?
No is the answer, in case you're struggling.
Over 400,000 people have joined the Facebook group, all offering various methods of action. Oh, here's going to be the undoing, because none of them are going to be able to agree on how to do this. Never mind. This is not a big deal. The 1,000-strong soldiers will be sectioned into three groups: rock throwers, Naruto runners, anime ninjas that run really fast, and Kyles, a team of muscle-buff teenagers with a penchant for kicking in drywall.
Dude.
You were asking me earlier, do I want to go? I found all kinds of other reasons why I would not want to be involved in this at all. Then there's the rest, whom will watch from a safe space with binoculars and the popcorn.
I bet there'll be people broadcasting it live. I bet we could have a podcast while watching it.
We could. Yeah, I have to put it over on the studio screen over here. Not all are in support of the mission and its outrageous plan. Man, y'all gonna die, warns one person in the group. Put me firmly in that camp that this is not the way to do this kind of stuff.
And that you all are going to die.
And yet, we wish the soldiers luck. I didn't say that. That was the article.
Yep.
Although we're surprised that the U.S. government hasn't shut this page down by now. Well, no, that just shows you how little they actually give a shit about this kind of stuff. And the fact that this has been announced ahead of time, people, let's be clear. The United States military has fucking drones. Drones. Okay?
We're not talking about a sound that's like, we're talking about something else.
Yeah, we're talking about aircraft that have like weapons that please don't. Jeez,
it's a bad idea.
This is a bad idea.
It's a bad
I don't want to be on any. I made fun of it last week, and I just don't want to be on the record as having endorsed this kind of stuff in any way.
Sure, yeah,
This
no,
is
I
a bad
definitely
idea.
wouldn't advise anybody to do that. That's probably not a good thing to do.
And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm in the Illuminati now. Did I tell you they got back to me?
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. You and I both. I have to. You have to come as a package deal, so you have to take all the same blood oaths and everything that I'm taking.
Yeah, I can do that. I can oath.
But one of the things they told me to do was to warn people off of raiding Area 51 because of all the there's actually a lot of stuff going on in there, and they just don't want this to happen because it would overwhelm the. You get that I'm being fucking sarcastic here, right? Okay, all right. This one, Eric, I thought sort of.
I see it.
Do you think that this article, that you see the headline now, we haven't read it yet, but do you think that this article fits the motif sort of the show? Yeah. Is it in the right energy? Is it in the right space?
It's definitely in the right energy. There probably isn't no good space for it anywhere, but yeah.
Right, because you can feel. Do you feel the no shit cast irony in the headline here? Do you kind of get? Where
I do. Yeah, there's a bit of ludicrousism, which is not really a word, but sounds really good.
You're just making shit up now, aren't you?
No worse than what we're hearing here. That's not made up.
So this comes from Futurism. The headline is: the Russian Orthodox Church may stop blessing nuclear weapons.
So, yeah, I guess God's going to get a little de-arsenalized. God's like, nope, we got to sell off some of these weapons. Don't bless them anymore.
So to be honest, when I saw this headline the first time, I got to be honest, there was literally like a 20-second pause where I think my brain actually fucking locked up and had to reboot. And just the consideration of someone blessing a nuclear weapon.
It sounds like, what the
like this doesn't make any fucking
just
sense.
Gotta reboot.
Yeah. Like right. Yeah. Like I was stuck in that. Like you just got to hold the power button. It's over, man. A faction of clergy within the Russian Orthodox Church wants to end the eyebrow-raising practice of blessing the country's nuclear missiles. First of all, yes, Russian priests currently sprinkle holy water on nuclear missiles as a part of an old tradition in which Orthodox priests bless soldiers and their weapons. That's where, I mean...
It's some interesting seminary schools there, I imagine.
Right.
Look, you got to be really careful when you're sprinkling the holy water. You don't want to hit the bomb with the sensor.
Right. Just don't actually make contact.
Right. Just sprinkle from 4 feet away. Wear this leather vest with the lead inside of it as you approach the missile to bless it.
That reminds me of that. Do you remember the old Bugs Bunny cartoon where he was testing the bombs? He was writing dud on the side of them by hitting them with a hammer, right? This, by the way, comes from Religion News Service.
It's definitely worthy of news. I mean, people should know this.
But that may change as some priests feel that intercontinental ballistic missiles belong in a different category from individual firearms. You think?
So they do individual firearms too?
Well, I mean, okay, of course, that's putting that aside. The Russian military and the Russian Orthodox Church have long worked hand in hand, according to RNS, framing many of the country's military conflicts as holy wars. Aren't they always? The nuclear arsenal even has its own patron saint.
Oh, who's that?
That's Saint Seraphims. That's an angel, Seraphim.
Yeah.
Saint Seraphim's remains were found in a Russian town that housed several nuclear facilities. Also some person, I guess. As such, the push to stop blessing nukes faces strong opposition among members of the clergy, such as the high-ranking priest.
The SCBOLOD, whoever that is.
Look, folks, if you want to see this shit, go to Futurism and look it up yourself. But we're just going to call him VC for the rest of this.
Yeah.
Who referred to the country's nukes as, quote, guardian angels.
Well, see, there you go. Sephirim was an angel.
Quote, only nuclear weapons protect Russia from enslavement by the West, Chaplin once said.
I know
RNS.
if they didn't have nuclear weapons, I would go get me a slave. I'd probably have 4 or 5. I would go right there.
Right to Russia and get you
grab
some slaves?
Bring them back.
You personally?
Sure.
I'm seeing a dark side of you, Eric Smith, that I didn't know existed. We're very happy you're coming to our side, Eric.
Yes.
That's a little bizarre, man.
All
What do you
right.
got going on there?
It's all good.
All right. One priest, Dmitry, some guy, parted from the more militant aspect.
Mr. Some Guy, we have a message for you.
Of the Orthodox Church, right, some guy, after seeing the men willingly sign up to fight Russia's wars, quote, under the banner of Christ, he told RNS, now he wants to see less warmongering among the clergy. Quote, well,
don't you hate it when that's the problem? You know what?
Tell me, Eric, historically speaking, when this happens, when the clergy gets involved in warfare, how does that end? I mean, just give me a brief overview of your a synopsis, because I mean you're a historian. Right?
Yeah, sure. It's never good. It causes all kinds of problems. I mean, from the very beginning, there was the Pharaoh Akhenaten who invented monotheism by declaring that there was only one God, Ra, and he demolished all of the other priesthoods. And they weren't happy about that, and eventually he was essentially ousted, and his name was erased, which is essentially like barring you from the afterlife, and his temples were torn down, and he was pretty much almost stricken from history. So it's not good. It doesn't work out well.
Rarely in history does that ever work out well for society as a whole, too, or the societies that live under this banner, right?
Yeah, it works out it works out worse in modern times. I mean, at least back then.
Give me an example of when this works out well. Like there's got to be one, right?
Well, like in ancient times, it definitely works out better than it does in modern times. I mean, to have in ancient Egypt, the priests of all the different pantheons was integral to the workings of the daily lives of the Egyptians on a lot of different levels, from the low to the high, and their government was really intertwined with various rituals that was done from different deities and stuff. So it worked out well for them. But the more you get into the divergence and cross-pollination.
I mean, is there an example of a ultra sort of orthodox society that didn't end up just sort of, or is this just the function that all societies eventually just sort of implode on themselves? I mean, what do you think? Because I know that the track record, and the reason I'm being facetious about this, obviously, I hope it's coming through, is because I kind of understand the track record here, and it isn't good. It's rare. It's, there's like guillotines involved and shit like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it gets bad, and flames and stakes. A
lot of
people
times
tied to them.
Yeah, a lot of times it's hard to separate religion and government once they're intertwined to a certain level like this. It's not easy to unseparate them. That's what Akhenaten was trying to do, unseparate those intertwined priests from his government, and that caused a lot of uproar, and this is likely to cause that same kind of uproar, this schism.
Kind of wild, huh? That this is sort of focused around the morbid topic of nuclear weapons. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Again, isn't this interesting, the times we live in, bro?
Again, yeah, it's something you should know. It's a definitely you should know this shit topic.
This also comes from Futurism. Scientists, quote, "we'll grow babies in artificial wombs within the decade."
Okay.
In the coming years, scientists plan to grow human embryos in a lab using high-tech artificial wombs. Doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia are in talks with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to begin testing artificial wombs on human embryos within the next 2 years, according to Metro. If they're successful, the research could radically change the way we view pregnancy, childbirth, and perhaps even human evolution. If those clinical trials go well, fully functional artificial wombs could be ready within 10 years, Yale University physician Carlo Buletti told Vice last year.
So they're going to grow them, huh?
Well, they're sort of, I guess, from what I've seen, is they're already doing this with like lamb, sheep embryos and stuff, and successfully growing these things into...
Hi, Bob. I'm Ted. Hey, Ted. What do you do for a living? I'm a farmer. Not the kind you think.
Kind of bizarre, right?
Right? So they're going to farm some kids. It's going to be awesome.
Because this harkens to those sort of alarming images from all the, fatalistic sort of sci-fi genre of the room full of human embryos that are growing, and then you just switch your consciousness out into the next shell kind of situation, right?
Could be that transhumanism we've all been looking for with a little bit of biology than we thought, more than we thought.
10 years is a long way off as far as medical research is concerned, but if artificial wombs are safe and effective, they could help prevent many of the medical complications that could arise during pregnancy and childbirth, per Metro, without compromising the mother and child's capacity to bond with each other.
Probably helps with things like premature birth and stuff.
Right. Yeah, because it gives you another option.
Yeah.
Right?
They'll probably charge the fuck out of it.
Well, I mean, it's all covered by insurance, I'm sure.
Maybe.
Quote, "if the fetus were in an artificial womb, it would become possible to access it and control the environment without restricting a woman's autonomy." University of Oslo philosopher and some person told Metro. So in some ways, there could actually be benefits for the fetus itself.
He'll be integrated into technology at an early age.
When you interrupt the natural biology of humans in a better way, what is that now? Is that technically just in and of itself transhumanism? Because what I'm saying here is they're saying that what they can actually do is provide a superior environment than now. I don't know if any of this is fucking true, but I'm just going down the road of that comment of saying they say they can actually provide some benefits that the actual natural womb can't.
Yeah.
Because it gives access to be able to go in and fix things in utero.
Generally, transhumanism is when you incorporate those kinds of technology into your body. But I would see this as a form of that.
Right.
Having that kind of technological advancement at birth probably may help down the road. It may allow you to live longer.
It's kind of a weird paradox, right? I mean, how much do we intervene? And at what point do you escape the confines of being actually human?
Yeah. Yeah. We're always pushing that back a little bit.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's like I said, this is an amazing kind of sort of time to sort of be on the planet and going through all of this.
Hell yeah.
This one comes from. This is bizarre. Okay, I trust the source that I get these from in the sort of way that these are recognized sort of media publications, but I don't know this particular source very well myself. So I just want to preface this with that. And as we're heading into Saturday's conversation with Gareth, this comes from International Business Times. Quote, this is the headline: NASA ISS video shows extraordinary UFO with very strange appearance, expert claims. Now, inside this headline, I want to point out that UFO just means an unidentified flying object, does not necessarily mean aliens, right?
Right.
And I think the word expert probably should be put in quotes here until we find out who this expert is.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
A UFO expert, again,
Expert.
quotes, claimed that NASA's live camera caught a strange alien vessel approaching the International Space Station, ISS. According to the expert, the video clearly shows the UFOs frequently visit the space station to check out its activities.
Okay, well, you're going to have to at some point show the video.
Right. The video was originally posted by YouTube user StreetCap1, a channel that was known within the UFO community due to its high-quality content.
Nice. Very nice.
However, after the user passed away in 2018, okay, the channel was no longer updated. The same video of the UFO visiting the ISS was then reposted by YouTube user of Sound, Mind, and Body. What are you selling me? In the video, a strange dark object with an odd shape can be seen hovering near the ISS. Unlike previous UFO sightings, the object featured in the video did not have an oval shape. Instead, it had distinct features protruding from different sections of its body. Shortly after NASA released the live footage, it was immediately cut off with a blank blue screen. This led UFO enthusiasts to believe that NASA was once again trying to cover up evidence of extraterrestrial beings. For Scott Waring of ET Database, the video can be considered as definitive proof regarding the existence of UFOs. More importantly, it reportedly shows that these strange beings and objects frequently visit the International Space Station. Waring speculated that the visit could be the UFO's way of checking in on scientific progress of humans. Now, we've had the Navy pilot thing.
Yes.
Now we have the NASA thing.
Yep. The Bob Lazar thing.
Got the Bob Lazar thing.
The Area 51 stormtroopers.
What the fuck is going on, Mr. Smith?
Too much information.
Right? Because so when I went, let's go back to the 470,000. What'd you call them? Stormtroopers or whatever. Okay. And now here I am reading you an article. Now, like I said, I don't know, but I source this particular article to be fully transparent, was sourced by my Smart News application, which I have found to be pretty decent. Okay.
Well, let's see the video. Let's see what it has to sell us.
Let's see. Now, the people that are listening will have to describe what we're seeing here because they're not going to hear any of this. Okay.
Okay.
But right off the bat, okay, let me pause this. I see of Sound and Mind and Body
logo,
and it's a picture of the Mothman, I think, from West Virginia is what I'm looking at, right? Is that what you, or some sort of angel? It's like an angel.
I thought it was like an angel. It kind of reminded me of
like
the Red Angel from Star Trek Discovery.
It's got like horns coming out the top of the head there, kind of bizarre.
Crown or horns or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
All right, let's move on here. Let's see what we're looking at. I bet it's going to be a lot of black and white heads-up display video. The YouTube channel StreetCap1, huh? So we got a narrator here talking about this.
Yeah, we just want to see the footage.
Yeah, I'm just going to fast forward to see this guy's yakking.
See, I hate this. Is almost clickbaitish in that
Yeah, it's
sense.
very. Well, I mean, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at like some sort of weird zoomed in pixelated image.
Yeah, it doesn't look official or anything that I've seen.
So let me look. We're just fast forwarding. All right. Yeah. This is already losing me kind of here. All right, moving on.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
For Scott Warren, okay, In another instance, a NASA video showed crew members of the ISS as they initiated a, quote, contact and capture maneuver in response to a cylindrical-shaped UFO approaching the ISS. According to Warren, the astronauts aboard the space station may have captured the strange object in order to study it. Well, folks, go check the video out for yourself. We looked at it, and I don't know. How compelled are you right now, Mr. Smith?
I don't know. I'm not very compelled at all about it. I would have liked to have seen something remotely similar to what is on the, what is that called? The splash screen?
Yeah, like heads-up display stuff, right? That's from those, I think that's the Navy footage.
Yeah, so
right?
I mean, but like something like that more, I would have, I don't know. We launched into some kind of weird documentary that wasn't
that was
what
bizarre,
they were talking
right?
about. Yeah,
I'm not. Okay. But the article was written interestingly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, this comes from. So, following up on a theme for the kind of shit we cover, this comes from Axios. Legal marijuana looks to be boosting snack sales.
Really?
So, is this really news?
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, they've talked about this in shows and TV shows. And
I mean, this seems, now, again, guilty, but that's the whole point of the show. Clickbaity, right? That's kind of what this looks like. Like, yay, some sort of win. It's like, no, should be expected.
Yeah, but at least it seems more realistic because it is something that makes sense, right? Like, it doesn't launch into a documentary about candy bars.
Water's wet, sky's blue, marijuana legalization boosts snack sales.
Yeah.
The only thing that's in danger of being harmed from a pothead is a bag of Oreos, right? Or a bag of Doritos. Despite still being illegal at the federal level, marijuana is now legal for recreational use in 11 states and Washington, D.C., and it's having an impact on a number of other businesses. Why it matters, new data from market research firm Nielsen shows states that have legalized have also seen a notable pickup in the consumption of what Nielsen calls munchies.
I mean, I guess that's like a win-win, right? They get the
tax revenue,
taxes, and then
local tax revenue, not
more
going to
local businesses being.
Well, yeah, because that money isn't going to fucking drug cartels and shit.
Yeah,
now, right?
It's like being put back into the community.
Creating, quote, big opportunities for the American food and beverage market, which I'm very happy about because
you're running those machines.
I work in that directly, particularly for the snack and confectionery category. What they're saying, quote, within the U.S., Nielsen data shows that sales of both salty and sweet snacks have increased over the past 52 weeks. What's funny about that?
I don't know. It just seems so obvious. It's like it's funny that there's somebody out there like trying to figure it out.
Like they're quantifying this. It's like this should be under the category of no shit.
Right? Yeah. Like
that's why it's on the show, right?
How much money was spent on all this?
Salty snacks reaching sales of $29.9 billion. That's with a B, and sweet snacks hitting sales of $6.5 billion. Further, Nielsen notes edible hemp-based cannabidiol products, which include the cannabinoid compound found in marijuana with little to no THC, present a $6 billion opportunity for the food and beverage industry. The compound annual growth rate, a number representing the rate at which an investment would have grown if it grew the same rate every year, and profits were reinvested each year, has grown demonstrably faster in legal recreational marijuana states than it has in those where it's still illegal. Again, duh.
If it gets taken off of the federal law books, then you could have like
descheduled kind of thing.
Yeah, you could have like big companies making edibles.
There's a lot of sort of rumors. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I don't do a lot with like tobacco. Okay, like nothing in that kind of industry, and that's but it's still kind of sort of in the realm of what I do on automation products, right? As an engineer, but there's a lot of rumors that they have already patented, and I've never verified this myself, but they've already patented like marijuana cigarette names and trademarked names.
I've heard that as well,
stuff like that. But I don't know how true that is.
I heard that Marlboro was going out of business. Or potentially going out of business.
I haven't seen it, but it's not something I really follow.
Yeah, me either. I don't know even where I heard that at. But I remember there was like a concern about it.
Well, we're pretty close to Kentucky, and in a lot of ways, right? But the move to the the non shit that gets you high version of hemp.
Oh, like the stuff for your muscles and joints.
No. The hemp products that are not. You can't smoke them. I think it's just called hemp. Right?
Okay, like soap and clothes.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
Not actually marijuana. It's just hemp.
Yeah,
the hemp fiber sort of business is a, from what I gather, from an equipment and mechanization standpoint, is a natural transition for tobacco farmers to transition into, because of the vast majority of the equipment they already own will work for that industry.
Sure, yeah.
So it's a very easy, instead of trying to move them to like corn or wheat or something, which they're not they're set up to handle tobacco and tobacco.
Well, yeah, I mean the same thing for a company like Mars that makes confectionaries, right? All they got to do is cut this stuff up and put it in their
put in the special brownie stuff.
Yeah,
whatever,
they could.
Right?
They could sell that stuff. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
If
and
it was federally,
absolutely.
You would see brand name stuff like that, I bet.
Yeah, it's full blown possible, right? And then it just comes down to the same type of licensure. I'm assuming that like breweries and stuff already go through.
Maybe that's what's going on in Nevada.
In the desert, everyone's getting, because it's legal out there, right?
Yeah. And
everyone's high as fuck.
Maybe, and they have edibles.
Dude,
and
you know what we should do, dude?
You should storm them, everybody.
We'll just get dude. Dude. Shh. We'll get like a fuckload of dudes, dude. And we'll just
go there.
We'll just go. What are they gonna do, dude?
They can stop us all,
dude.
Right? Well, the psilocybin mushrooms are legal in Denver.
That's what I heard, right?
I figure those people probably lost in Denver somewhere.
I have way more interest, and I have no interest in this, okay? But I have way more interest in going to Colorado with you than
down
I
to
do
Area
to going
51.
to Area 51. Yeah, I mean, way more interest, and I'm not doing that either. NASA's fuelless space engine has been tested. Remember when we were talking about this?
I do kind of remember this.
This comes from Science Times. We were talking about that propellantless form of
engine
propulsion.
That was that was cone shaped, right?
Yep. It says space flight is hard, blasting heavy cargo, spacecraft, and maybe people to respectable speeds over interplanetary distances requires an amount of propellant too massive for current rockets to haul into the void. I've said this. That is, unless you have an engine that can generate thrust without fuel. It sounds impossible, but scientists at NASA's Eagle Works laboratories have been building and testing just such a thing, called an EM drive. The physics-defying contraption ostensibly produces thrust simply by bouncing microwaves around inside a closed cone-shaped cavity. No fuel required. Now, Eric, let's be clear, has been skeptical
in the past
about this
and things in general.
Okay, well, that's your point. That's your place.
Yeah,
I guess I'm the dreamer. You're the dick. The device last made headlines in late 2016 when a leaked study reported the the results of the latest round of NASA testing. Now, independent researchers in Germany have built their own EM drive with the goal of testing innovative propulsion concepts and determining whether their seeming success is real or an artifact. See, this is why peer review and documentation is so important, because if somebody else
replicate it.
If someone else can't replicate your shit, it's snake oil. Got it? Okay, moving on. Quote, the thrust is not coming from the EM drive, but from some electromagnetic interaction. Oh, I'm really disappointed by that. The team reports in a proceeding for a recent conference on space propulsion. The group, led by Martin Tajmar of the University in Dresden, tested the drive in a vacuum chamber with a variety of sensors and automated gizmos attached. Wow, very scientific. Glad they're giving us the rich details of what happened.
They can't. Yeah, they can't tell us laymen.
Science Times, and they're using the word gizmos. Okay. Researchers could control for vibrations, thermal fluctuations, resonance, and other potential sources of thrust, but they weren't quite able to shield the device against the effects of Earth's own magnetic field. Dun, dun, dun. When they turned on the system but dampened the power going to the actual drive, so essentially no microwaves were bouncing around inside, the EM drive still managed to produce thrust, something it should not have done if it works the way the NASA team claims. Okay. To determine what's going on with the EM drive, though, the group needs to enclose the device in a shield made of something called Mu or Mu metals, which will insulate it against the planet's magnetism. Take it in space, I guess. Importantly, this kind of shield was not part of the Eagle Works original testing apparatus either.
And why would it be?
Which suggests the original findings could also be a consequence of leaking magnetic fields. What the
They just have no idea what's going on. They just, it works.
Are
I
they
don't
just
know
like
why.
grasping it?
I don't think they know. I don't think they have any idea why it's doing what they're doing. They're trying to figure it out and separate every last possibility.
It says that sounds like a blow to the concept of the EM drive, but Woodward is not ready to close the case on the contraption just yet. Okay. First of all, if this thing has a way of creating propulsion or force just by interacting with the Earth's own magnetic fields, that is an enormous breakthrough. Is it not?
I think
Am I
either
wrong
way,
about this?
I think they'll be able to find something out that they'll be able to capitalize on, but I don't think they absolutely know what it's doing. And if I think they figure it out, they might be able to capitalize on that, but they don't know.
I'm just saying, okay, so this thing derives directional energy from, if what they're saying is true, just simply by interacting with the Earth's own magnetic fields. What else does that?
I have no idea.
You know what I mean? That is a huge deal. Okay, all right. I see a completely different article here, but maybe that's just me. I just think that's bizarre. They're just discounting it as, it doesn't work. It isn't going to drive spacecraft. Okay, maybe that's not what it's going to do. Wait a minute, back up here a minute.
If it's actually doing that, they don't know. They still don't know.
Well, it looks to me like they've eliminated every other possible variable, like you said. So they're sort of going, magnetism. I don't know.
Yeah. If they shield it from that, the only other thing I can think of is cosmic rays and neutrinos, and then they'd have to go down into a really deep salt mine somewhere for that. And
see, this is what I'm talking about. This is
and if they don't find something, then they're just gonna say it's magic.
Well, I keep asking my guys, my Electric Universe guys that are coming on, like Sherfu and then Gareth and Neil. Mm-hmm. It's when do we get hover cars?
What do they think about this drive?
I haven't talked to them about it yet.
Seems
maybe we bring that up as another thing when we have our legitimate physicist on the show that can kind of explain this stuff to us on Saturday. Maybe this is another one. It's hey, man, have you checked out this EM drive? If he hasn't, I shouldn't put him on the spot. I should send him the article and be like, what the fuck?
What's going on with this?
He's not like, I'm like starting to like talk about him like I'm going to use him like an ATM machine where I just like send him a message and I'm like,
well,
yeah, hey,
and
monkey,
he may not
give me an
be
answer.
in any better position to know than the people that's working on it. Like, he may not know either.
Listen, do not start getting practical and shit and logical on this show, Mr. Smith. We're not going to have any of that. Okay?
No.
That's not going to happen.
So I'm waiting for this.
Have you seen this article before?
Science.
This is from Futurism.
No, I haven't. But things like this.
So from Futurism, scientists melted ancient ice. Did they watch The Blob? Did they not see? Okay. Scientists melted ancient ice and a long dead worm wriggled out.
It's got to be awesome.
I would say wiggled, but, wriggled.
When
a team of biologists melted some Siberian permafrost to look for microbes, an ancient survivor waved, "Hello, I'm about to destroy humanity." On University of Tennessee microbiologist Tatiana Vishnevetskaya, I need an applause track for that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I said that right. Her petri dish sat a small pile of nematodes, half-millimeter long roundworms that sprang back to life as the Ice Age era frost melted away around them, according to the Washington Post. The against all odds survival story may suggest that life could survive extreme conditions, including those on other planets. That person with the V name thinks the worms, which are the most complex organisms to survive being frozen and thawed, are about 41,000 years old, Mr. Smith.
Finally, after thousands of years.
She suggested to the Washington Post that they could have survived indefinitely in the ice as long as the permafrost stayed stable.
As long as you didn't unthaw them.
Well, okay, so here's the kicker, right? So, quote, if they survived 41,000 years, I have no idea what the upper limit is, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My thing is that says, well, okay, can you carbon date a living? Anyway, it'd be interesting to find out if they're really that old, because that means they've been stuck there for 41,000 years. Yeah. And like shit like this is starting to not be stuck anymore.
Well, not if they take it out and specifically thaw it out.
Well, in this particular case, but huge portions of the permafrost are melting all over. Okay, Bergoni told Washington Post that nematodes survive in the harshest environments on Earth. They've been found miles beneath the surface and in oxygen-deprived mine shafts, for example. He says the animal's unusual resilience here on Earth as a sign that life could exist on other less hospitable planets.
It's an extremophile.
Extremophile, right. Like that's not a new necessarily thing. Okay, so that's not just like an earthworm going, "Hey, dude, I'm back." Yeah. There's a little more to it than that. These things are like sort of built for extreme survival. Yeah, that's not necessarily saying that we're unlocking the plague of the pharaohs upon mankind kind of situation. I thought this one was cool, man. This comes from a more mainstream news source, which I tend to sort of gravitate away from, but this is from CNN. But I thought this was really interesting because this sort of situation affects us all, right?
Yeah, I get them all the time.
AT&T becomes the first major wireless company to automatically block spam calls. I mean, I don't even know if I need to go any further in the article than that to want to spike the football and clink the glasses of champagne here, right?
Yeah, and I have AT&T.
Yeah, so do I in this particular case. I was Verizon forever, but now I have a company phone. On Tuesday, AT&T became the first major U.S. wireless company to automatically, so starting Tuesday, so how many days ago? It was 2 days ago, automatically block robocalls for its customers. The free service comes after a June Federal Communications Commission ruling that allows phone service providers to offer call blocking on an opt-out basis. AT&T owns Warner Media, the parent company of CNN. Well, they have to divulge that because that's the article I'm reading, right?
I'll have to go through and look and set adjustments.
Well, I think it's just automatic. You have to actually tell it, no, I would like to be pestered by phone calls constantly. Quote the committee. Right, that's what they're saying. It's an opt-in type situation instead of opt-out or whatever. Did I say that right? Now you're going to make me go back and look at this again. On an opt-out basis. I did say it wrong, so I'm glad I went back. Spam calls are an annoyance for just about everyone with a cell phone. At times, they are illegal scams. They can be difficult to detect because they often come from the receiver's own area code. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I've had that.
More than 4.3 billion robocalls, both legal and illegal, were placed last month, according to industry data. That's a lot. Robocall blocking uses algorithms and network scanning to identify unwanted calls, similar to how email providers scan for spam messages. AT&T service will attempt to block fraudulent calls and alert customers when a call may be spam. It will be available on all new lines and added in the coming months to existing customer lines. Okay. So that's the thing. So those customers will be notified by text when the service is active.
Nice.
So there you go, man. No more bullshit. Fucking
yay.
Those are ridiculous, dude, too.
They call a lot, dude.
It's insane. For a while I thought that I might have just got like some bizarre phone number when I had my last number, and I thought, oh, this is like this person must have got hacked or something. But turns out it's not just me. It happens to pretty much everybody. But I'm so glad to hear that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
huh?
I'm glad that I have AT&T.
So this one comes from The Verge, and I thought you'd get a kick out of this, Mr. Smith, because we talk about Elon Musk and stuff all the time on here.
Yeah.
But a former Tesla employee admits uploading Autopilot source code to his cloud. Tesla believes he stole the company trade secrets and took them to a Chinese startup, Xiaoping Motors. I hope I'm not saying that right. Corporate espionage type shit there, man.
Ain't no good.
I'm not even going to pronounce this guy's name. A former engineer at Tesla admitted in a court filing this week that he uploaded zip files containing Autopilot source code to his personal iCloud account in late 2018 while still working for the company. Tesla sued him earlier this year for allegedly stealing trade secrets related to the Autopilot and bringing them to a Chinese electric vehicle startup, also known as X Motors or XPeng, which is backed by tech giant Alibaba. Ooh, I've heard of that. Alibaba, you know who that is, right? That's that big Alibaba.com's where you can order anything you've ever imagined, and someone's already manufacturing it, and they'll give it to you for like 20 cents. It's crazy. Chow denied stealing sensitive information from the automaker in the same filing. His legal team argued he made, quote, made extensive efforts to delete and or remove any such Tesla files prior to his separation from Tesla. Cao is now the head of perception at XPeng, where he is developing and delivering autonomous driving technologies for production cars, according to his LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn? God, how old's this article? Wait a minute. No, dude, that's like just a day ago. Yikes. LinkedIn.
They're not really they don't really go out on the street and investigate, do they?
I'm sorry. Who? Oh, these people that write these articles.
Yeah, they like investigation to them is looking at other things on the internet. It's not really like investigative reporting where there's actually you go out and find out the information.
We're gonna kind of bear witness. On the Verge here a little bit, huh?
No, actually, it's actually there's a lot of news nowadays that's like that. It's not just them. There's not many investigative reporters that go out and beat the street and go places. I mean, there's some still that do, by big corporations, and they get sent to other companies. But like the street level investigative reporter, you just don't see it much anymore.
I think it's. I saw somebody doing an interview one time. To your point, exactly. They were pointing out how many investigative reporters are actually still employed by like major news networks. And let's just say this, the numbers were less than 10. Like, it was stunning. I think some of them didn't have any at all. It was just entirely outsourced.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have their own investigative reporting teams and shit like that anymore. It's crazy. And I didn't know that was actually a thing.
And it is a thing.
Like, very few. You would think, like, wait a minute. You think of these, the old sort of imagery in your head of the guy wearing the bowler, or not the bowler, but the fedora cap with the press credentials in his cap, and there's all these gritty reporters and these newspapers, and they're all out
and somebody's actually bearing witness to the news and reporting it.
You got like the guy from Spider-Man. What's his name?
Jimmy Olsen.
No, the guy. No, Spider-Man. The guy that
he was. Oh, that's right. That's
he was always screaming at
Jay Jonasson,
at Peter Parker for this picture or whatever.
Is it Jay Jonasson?
Yeah, right. That's what you think, but it turns out there's like no reporters in these freaking newsrooms, like investigative journalists or anything in these newsrooms at all anymore. They're all like private contractors now. It's kind of wild, huh? This one comes from Newsweek, Tech and Science. Mystery population of humans were living in Europe 210,000 years ago, long before major migration out of Africa.
I've heard about this.
Does this weird you out, like that this keeps happening? I keep seeing this. But I've heard this. Now, maybe I'm just amalgamating this in my mind. Mm-hmm. But I've heard this thing that there's like literally different genuses of humanoids or humans. 3. And we can see the DNA that they're just different. Like they evolved into becoming humans separate from each other. Is that the way I should be interpreting that?
Well, they did all interbreed, at least Neanderthals and humans did. But they probably all interbreeded at some point. And so they kind of got intermixed into one race, really. But there were 3 separate races.
You know what they are? Like what how would I recognize them?
There's the Neanderthal, there was the Homo sapien, and then there was one I can't remember what its name is.
So when the
one they're talking about here.
No, okay. So when I'm saying this to you in my mind, the way I'm interpreting this, and maybe I'm wrong, and this is what you're correcting me here on, is that there were like the Asians, the Europeans, and the Africans. It's not like that, right? That's what you're saying.
It was like those are from that perspective, those are all Homo sapiens. The Africans, the Asians, the Europeans, they're all now today Homo sapiens. We're all humans. But then there was 3 different kinds of humans that were distinctly different, like really truly different races where they weren't the same. But they were able to interbreed with each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they were on the same branch of the tree, so to speak. So because I'm a clear example of the proof of that with Neanderthals and Homo sapiens.
Right.
So I still have.
You're literally mostly caveman, right?
Well, like it's like I think it's less than, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3% of your genes that all of them would make up if they were all active.
Right.
And I just have more active in me than 99% of the people they had tested.
Yeah, but I like telling the story different. I like making shit up and saying, it
is considerably more than other people, I mean,
my buddy Eric is literally Captain Caveman. This comes from Newsweek, if I haven't already said that. A human skull discovered in a Greek cave has been found to date back to 210,000 years, or over 150,000 years before humans are believed to have first settled in Europe. The discovery suggests Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa on multiple occasions before conquering the world. So this is significant, right? This is sort of rewriting some shit kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big deal.
I think so, yeah.
The very first modern humans evolved in Africa around 350,000 years ago. They were preceded by a number of other Homo species. There's that word again, huh? Including Homo erectus, which always makes me giggle, and Neanderthals, both of which had left Africa hundreds of thousands of years earlier. There are known to have been many waves of migration out of Africa over our history. starting from around 270,000 years ago. However, the most significant and sustained move into Asia, Europe, and the rest of the world is thought to have started between 80,000 and 60,000 years ago. That's a period. Is that like the Younger Dryas or one of them periods they're always talking about?
That would have been about 10,000 years ago, ending at 10,000 years. It's probably from 60,000 to 10,000 BC.
It says they analyzed 2 skulls that were found in the Epidema cave, a cave in Greece in the late 1970s. Neither skull had ever been scientifically analyzed as they were fragmented and there was little context about their discovery. One skull, known as Epidema 2, appeared to be a Neanderthal from its morphological features. Well, I pulled that bitch off.
Yeah.
Huh? Morphological. Now I'm going to mess it
The
up.
way its skull was shaped.
CT scans confirmed this. Dating revealed it lived about 170,000 years ago. Epidema 1, however, posed more of a problem. The team only had the back of the skull, and it had both primitive and modern features. However, they were still able to create a 3D reconstruction of the skull to find it belonged to the species of Homo sapiens. The discovery suggests there were at least 2 human species living at the site during the Middle Pleistocene? Pleistocene? A group of modern humans followed by a population of Neanderthals. Our findings support multiple dispersals of early modern humanity out of Africa and highlight the complex demographic process that characterized that P word again of human evolution and the modern human presence into Southeast Europe, the scientists concluded. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, anything that's that ancient that they find that relates back to that sort of situation is like setting history back, and it's a big deal. I think it especially is in the sense that it's at the very epoch of history, like our own history as a species. To understand those sort of things and where we come from is probably pretty important. I mean, a lot of religious people may not agree with the results.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of religious people nowadays that don't believe in evolution and don't believe that, we bred with these other types of humans.
That's not really different than any other time when it comes to archaeological evidence and stuff, right? I mean, that's not really new.
Well, yeah, but now you're kind of messing
is this creating some sort of new paradigm?
I just think this touches into the heart of what they believe that they are special, like Christians in particular feel that they're special because they were created by God, like man was created by God. So the idea that man may be partially made up of other species and not wholly created by God might be offensive to their sensibilities because it kind of takes away that special designation. We were created by our deity to serve a function and a purpose as opposed to just randomly evolved from other things.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying. I just think this touches to the heart of that, as opposed to other archaeological discoveries. This is one that's talking about the emergence of man,
right,
from other things before man. And as a creationist, they would probably find offense in that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that find a lot of that stuff metaphorical too, right? It's a big brush to say that everybody under this moniker believes XYZ, because we personally both know a lot of people that believe a lot of that kind of prehistory stuff that's recorded in those kinds of texts is metaphorical, not literal.
Yeah,
per se.
I think
I know that makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. Though,
yeah,
to say that.
yeah.
But
I think
I'm just stating a fact. I'm not saying that one's right or wrong or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that's kind of how it works.
Well, and those people really haven't truly tried to reconcile those two parts of themselves either. The idea that you believe in creationism in one sense by saying that you're a Christian, but if you also believe that this is legitimate, then you must not be examining the conflict within you very closely, because if you were to pit these things against each other, inevitably one of them would have to win. You would either fall on the side of believing the the human species was created, or you'd fall on the side of it evolving. I don't know if there's a third choice.
Well, no, I think we trip it, through this kind of discussion. We trip into that sort of comparative metaphysics.
Yeah, maybe.
Discussion again, right?
Yeah, I mean,
right.
but we're talking about
That's that question: is there a place for a deity in modern science? And is there? And I think that goes back to that. These are philosophical questions. Like, is it an accident? Is it persistent? Or is it divine? Like, how did it happen?
Yeah, if you change some of the fundamental concepts, like you don't, you could fit it in. You could fit it in if you want to give up saying that.
I don't know what that makes me if I'm at least willing to acknowledge that there's a question there, that there's a consideration, right? I don't know if that makes
definition.
Yeah, that's
if your idea of creationism is the process of evolution, and your God directed that's a matter of definition.
Yeah,
there's obviously people who believe literally the Bible, that man was created from mud and dust and such, and that woman was created from Adam's rib and that sort of
literalists,
thing. Yeah,
literal translation of those kinds of texts,
and people who literally translate those texts and then extrapolate it into ancient alien things where they you've heard this, right? Where they're the clone is what they're saying. Yeah, so I mean, it depends on what your definition is of things.
A very unique reading of cuneiform text gives you this very
Zachariah Stitchin. Yeah.
No, and I think that there's a very valid discussion to be had there along the context. I mean, and all I'm saying is that when you really boil this stuff back to root sort of, I call it like root cause failure analysis, or when you sort of bring everything back to its fundamental level, I think that there's room for a discussion of that sort. And that's,
absolutely.
But that is but I always try to classify that and say, look, that's a philosophical discussion that sort of underpins everything else that's going on. And a lot of people that are in the science community will tell you that there's room for that discussion to be had. What the hell was that?
It's Siri trying to take part in our discussion.
Tell her to piss off.
I know, right?
We're done with
How
her
philosophical could she possibly be about this?
Not good. I was thinking about this today. Sometimes when I use Siri, I find myself saying thank you.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Is that weird?
I can't say it is if I'm doing
it.
I can't say I do that. I like telling Siri thank you.
Or saying please and this kind of stuff. It's weird, right? Because I've never typed into Google and said,
no, but this
hey,
is
look up my shit, Google, please. I've never done that. But when I'm talking to Siri, I find myself like involuntarily being weirdly polite to this thing.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's part of the experience of an artificial intelligence like Siri, You're supposed to react like they are at least...
That's spooky shit, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, when I'm not thinking about, okay, I'm talking to this artificial intelligence, when I just talk to it, I talk to it like a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's bizarre, right? That's bizarre.
I ask it what the weather is going to be like when I wake up a lot of times. I always have it set alarms and timers, like when I'm warming up the oven or whatever. I have it hooked into iTunes digital library, and I can ask it to play anything. I can have it play Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun, and it will play it.
Right.
And that's cool. And I can ask it for directions. If I could be anywhere and say, Siri, take me home, and it will immediately.
We'll start getting you directions. And
yeah, it's probably more useful than well, never mind.
Than human beings.
No, I was going to say something even more derogatory.
Let's not go down that road.
Yeah, no.
Oh man, it's true.
Having to do with my life.
It was funny because I seen a meme of this one time about or not a meme, but like one of those Facebook or social media stories about somebody's grandmother. They went back through the browser history, and when they were asking, when grandma was asking the Google questions, she kept saying please and thank you and this kind of stuff. And it's like a joke, right? It's like this big, Oh, my grandma's so cute. She's saying please to Google. And then when I'm talking to Siri, I'm over here going, please, thank you.
Maybe a sign of getting old is you're polite to the robots and
Don't
stuff.
tell me that, man. I'm not that old.
Well, I was talking to my aunt on 4th of July, I think is when it was. I don't know, or after that, 5th. I don't know. Anyway, I was talking with her, and she was telling me about that kind of thing. She was talking about having a Roomba and it giving her text. I think we were talking about this before, and she had a Alexa that she used.
I don't think we talked about it on the show, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she has a Roomba robot sweeper, and when it would get hung up, it would send her a text saying that it needed help or it was hanging on the edge of a cliff, and she would go in and save it. And she had an Alexa, and she had that connected to her lights and had like light cycles programmed into it.
Right.
And I thought it was good that she was my aunt and she was utilizing this technology like fully and not being like future shock. I know my grandparents, they very much suffered from future shock.
Yeah.
But and maybe we talked about
That's
this
just like
too.
the inability to adapt or adopt new
to the change,
yeah.
to the technological change that's occurring under Moore's law, where things are shrinking down and more is being packed into them, and it's happening so fast. See, they're like the last group of people that really truly didn't grow up or have most of their lives being exposed to things like, internet and television and phones and just a number of technological devices that I can't even think of. I mean, there was some real primitive, maybe TV, black and white for my grandparents. I mean, like I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 November. So I'm talking about pretty far back, right?
Yeah.
And they had a hard time adjusting to like all the channels that were on TV and all the shows that were on and all the music that came out.
I don't ever remember, because you and I both have the privilege. I don't know if this is a privilege, but we were both alive from the transition from things like rotary telephones to push button phones.
Yeah, but
and I don't remember anybody going, well, I ain't fucking switching from my rotary
No, because
phone.
That's a minor change, man. I mean, like, what they had before that was so primitive and so unreliable and so rare that once you got the first common rotary phones that people were using to upgrade to the push buttons, that was a small little jump. That was a small little thing, right? But by the time you get to so much information being packed into menus, like it started with things like VHS digital menus that you would have to program, and there would be people making jokes about how the 12 o'clock was always blinking.
How to set the time on the VCR was a big comedy bit for years.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of like a reflection of that beginning of people starting to have future shock, where they can't understand that it's a matter of going in and there's all these, you have to push the same button again and again to get to a menu. And it's just confusing to them.
Hold the set button down and hit minute, and then hold the set button down and hit.
Yeah, because what they were using before was all singular buttons clearly labeled.
Right.
To you switch this and it does this, you switch this and it does this, to electronic menus. It's such a jump for them. It left a lot of people behind, and all these other things. There's so much proliferation of music, technology that started coming out with digital music and drum machines that made music sound really precise and different, was unfamiliar to them because they'd only come from situations where it was much more fluid. Same thing about stories and drama and stuff. They had a harder time following, faster editing, more intense writing. They tended, my grandparents, this is what I'm saying, tended to watch these Westerns and stuff, and they would watch them over and over again.
Or the Weather Channel. That's a big,
things that made sense to them, and even that got complicated with them and stuff.
Grabs,
too many grabs, too many collars, too many fancy words like Doppler, I mean, and they just got left behind. But the next generation after them, my parents, they grew up with functioning phones and radar and all of these things, and an explosion of music with electric guitars coming out and that sort of thing.
Right.
And it was an easy jump to the drum machine and the synthesizer for them.
Easier,
yeah, for them to get it, right? Because it's still familiar. It's not to those grandparents, their parents. They were like, I don't even know what's going on. By the time it's jumping again and again and again, they were left behind. And I think it's nice. So that's what I'm saying, man. It's like nice to see my mom's generation and my aunt not being left behind and seeing that
this stuff.
Yeah, we've kind of caught up until the next really weird paradigm shift occurs, which would be something weird like we talk about occasionally, like finding anti-gravity or having weird,
Well, it's funny. My buddy Jamie has a mother who he bought a room before, and I think he's the one that gets the text messages. So he runs over. He runs over, Mom, where's the Roomba, kind of thing, and goes and figures out what's wrong with it and this kind of stuff. But to your point, she's done the same thing. She's been able to sort of adapt to these new capabilities, new possibilities. But he's really good about being able to draw a very easily understood box around stuff for her, so that she's not overwhelmed by all of it. And he's been very, and this lady is like, dude, she's so smart. Like, I revere this woman. His mom is just an amazing person. But, so she's very bright, but he's able to sort of do things. When it first started out, when she first got on the internet, what he did was he created shortcuts for her to her favorite internet websites on her desktop. So all she had to do was click on them and open them, and then it took her to whatever knitting thing that he helped her look up and this kind of stuff. But she's become very savvy with technology for somebody that was around right after the steam engine sort of started to fade into obscurity kind of situation, right?
Yeah, right.
She's been part of many different transitions of technology and this kind of stuff. But the way that technology is sort of built today, it makes it like you can definitely tell that a big part of the understanding of the modern engineer is its ability to be incorporated into society or for people to be able to accept it. Like they're starting, that used to just be like strictly an Apple thing. But now you can tell, like it's really starting to permeate other types of technology.
And these artificial intelligences like Siri are really good at helping bridge that gap. They allow access to these confusing things that would be difficult manually to do, into just talking.
Right. So we're not asking you to do anything else other than be able to speak and ask a question. If you can do that, you can interact with this vast treasure trove of information.
Yeah. And they're constantly updating it. I mean, it's only going to get better and more integrated and stuff. To me, it's amazing now that I can ask it to play any song in iTunes library and it will play it,
It's funny, one of the articles that I ditched for tonight because I just thought it was going to be too boring. So I'm not going to read it, but I'm just going to sort of highlight what it was talking about, was that how they're using AI now to go back through decades worth of research and research papers and sort of critically analyze the information. And from that, they've been able to derive breakthroughs in material sciences. And I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So what they're saying that these things are able to kind of dig into the data, compare it from multiple research projects from universities or whatever from around the world, and from that it's been able to derive like new chemical compositions and stuff that have been like huge in the areas of material science.
We're getting close to a feedback loop where we can build a machine that will run a set of software that will be able to discover new discoveries, in which case we might be able to build a better machine to run better software to, like when you start getting these technological achievements to work for you, like we were talking earlier today, when your money's working for you. Right. Then you're wealthy.
Yeah, producible or assets that produce. Yeah, creating assets. It's like a real simple equation when you start breaking everything kind of down into an asset or a liability column, right? Overall. Now that's like an engineering thing. Does it take energy? Does it produce energy? Does it, what is it on the scale? Because we have these things called parasitic loads and all this kind of stuff that we sort of just understand and accept. Where do you think this is like? I mean, is the nexus of this transhumanism? Is that kind of where you think it's all going? Where ultimately we will be better, to quote Blade Runner, better, more human than human.
Yeah.
Kind of situation where we're augmented into and everybody is augmented into superhuman capability.
If we don't destroy ourselves or get destroyed by some cosmic force, yeah, I do. I
you feel that's a logical transition given the path you see with the way technology's evolving.
Well, yeah, because we've always been tool builders, and we've always made tools from the beginning, from stone tools all the way up to I guess the peninsula of that would be maybe nanites or something like that could build things themselves. So we're always striving to rearrange the universe that we live in. I mean, if we're in a forest, we cut that forest down and we reconstruct it as a house. We vary our temperatures to our own liking with air conditioning and heaters. We tend to want to control our environment.
Right.
And so the integration of that environment into us is
just like a natural transition kind of situation.
And you kind of see
barring
that with
some sort of philosophical revolution or something where this is where it's heading.
And it will sneak up on you. I mean, we already modify crops and plants that we consume, and we modify with CRISPR the things that we've talked about on the podcast and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of modification going on.
and we're not talking plastic surgery, ladies.
No, right.
That's happening too. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I think eventually this will be integrated. I think the people who, if you was to make a range when we talk about things like future shock, I think on the extreme range of that are the people who's pretty savvy with technology but don't have any desire to want it to be inside of them or a part of them or to merge with it. But I think as we continue down into this phase, that
is that going to be like the next taboo thing, like drugs was taboo, just say no and all this. Is that going to be the next just say no sort of paradigm? It's just say no to embedding technology in yourself, or
I don't think it will get that. I don't think it will get that scary. I think that, people already put pacemakers inside of them and things like that. People, instead of dying, if hey man, you're going to die, or you need this piece of technology inside of you that is wireless and sends me signals if anything happens to you.
I'm not asking that question from a practical standpoint, and I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, the concept of transhumanism is long since over. It's not like we're breaking any new ground here. This is already happening.
And people are really willing to do it for life purposes.
And folks are signing up for it.
Yeah, people will integrate that into them for their life quicker than I think people realize. Because it's not an option for them right now. I'd never do that.
Right.
But if you were going to die and someone gave you the option, you would say, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah, given the alternative, generally it's like, okay, this is a dumb question. Yeah, duh.
Right. Don't put it always in the form of, look, they're going to embed a chip in you and they're going to be watching you all the time and all your movements. It's like, well, maybe that's the case, but how is that any different from the guy that has a pacemaker that sends a signal if something happens to the doctor
and says something's happening?
Right. Yeah, and they're willing to take that mantle onto themselves for their life.
Right.
Eventually, you're going to find that to be commonplace for extending life, and you're going to find people that's willing to say, I'll take it early and I'll take this chip.
Dude, listen, when presented in that light, when anything is presented like, look, here's this technology that'll keep you alive or you could die. Like when you're presented with those options, it's pretty fucking simple to make that decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but that's, and I get that. That's totally honest.
And that just takes the fear away from the general public, and eventually people will allow it into them for reasons beyond just because it's going to save or extend their life.
Right.
There'll be people that says, this shit's pretty common. I'll take something that helps me.
I don't know. See, I'm a little more, I guess, negative when it comes to that, because what I've seen is that even when you tell people, look, this is the best possible thing for you, I've seen people even get to the point on issues where they'll sort of choose against their own best interests just because of an ideology or whatever. So that's sort of what I'm saying. I'm asking this question philosophically. I get that logically, when you're sitting at the table and all the cards are on the table, it's stupid, simple decision. Yeah, I'm going to live, right? But I'm saying, this comes from that sort of same philosophical space that people choose not to do things like
blood transfusions because of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You get where I'm coming from, or people
Yeah.
that won't do vaccinations.
But I think
or
those people
that
are
won't
in
do,
the minority. I don't think those people are in the majority.
But where do you think that in this concept of transhumanism that they're going to be able to adopt and adapt and accept that philosophically with the same philosophical exclusions that they already currently have?
I think
or is this going to be the next frontier of that kind of stuff? Like, don't do it, No,
I think it's going to be just like my grandparents and their generation died away. The naysayers are going to be the older people who will eventually die off, leaving the younger people who will be more embracive of a technology that they've grown up around and seen the benefits from.
Right.
And they'll be willing to explore it
history
more.
kind of says that's the way this works, does it not?
Generally, yeah. I mean, just like take video games as a off the top of my head analogous example, right?
Analogous.
And that too. That kind of an example. It's going to serve all kinds of examples, actually.
We're slamming them down tonight.
Yeah, I mean, or like we were talking about menus earlier, right? Like I was one of those kids who grew up with the VHS menus, and I had to figure it out, because it was new for me too. I was just capable of reading a manual and figuring it out and utilizing it, right? But when I watch my 14-year-old son flip through menus of various sorts on his video games and various other devices that he does it with a familiarity and expertise that I would do with books and stuff like that when I would be doing gaming.
There's definitely a flow to that kind of shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, he just flips right through them and he knows where stuff is at.
There's a commonality now. For people that have never known anything different, they go in and go, okay, well, that should be here and this should be there.
Well, my grandfather would look at that screen and he would just see a two-dimensional screen with absolutely no depth and wouldn't know where anything was.
Or where to begin.
Right.
Yeah.
But my kid looks at it and he sees almost infinite depth. Like he knows there's all these layers and where he needs to go. So when he's looking at it, it's probably like a thick three-dimensional thing for him because he knows 3 layers down there's this orange color that I want to use on this part of the skin that I'm making. There was this. Where our grandparents would be like, what do you mean third layer down?
Right. I had this guy that was like he owned and operated a dairy farm. It was kind of like a grandparent to me, but he was like a family friend grandparent to me. And I spent most of my summers, late, early teens to or early adulthood on his farm, up until the point where I enlisted and left for the military. But so baling hay and milking cows. I just love spending the summers out there. I don't know what it was. It was just, I lived in the city to go to school, but I would stay out there and like mow grass and bale hay and all that kind of shit. But I remember there was 2 remarkable things that happened with him that I thought was interesting because he was an older guy. He was like a grandparent, like a grandpa kind of thing. And I remember the first time that I had sneakers. I had like Nike sneakers, and I had gotten to a point where he and I had about the same foot size. So he put my shoes on one time to like run outside and do something or whatever. My shoes were sitting by the door, and he just jumped in my shoes to run out like a goof. And he was freaking out about how amazing they felt, how light they were, because all he wore were his traditional style hard-soled work boots, right? So he'd never even had anything on his feet.
He was
like
suddenly
this.
Fleet of feet.
Oh, it was funny. I'm not even kidding. He was like dancing. He was like doing a jig and stuff. And I'm like, these are amazing. I'm like, yeah, man, that's what I wear every freaking day, right? But the thing that really jumped out at me was the first time I put headphones on him. I had a Walkman type device. I don't even know if it was specifically a Sony Walkman. You remember back in the 80s,
yeah,
we all
I
had
used
those
to
tape
have
players,
a Sony
Panasonic,
Walkman.
and Sony was a specific, sort of a specific name. But I have like a tape player, and I think it was like a Queen album or something I had on cassette that was in there that I was jamming out to. And I put this on him, his headphones on him. His first remark was, "Wow, that's loud." And then I turned it down, and then his next remark was like, "Holy cow, I can't believe how amazing that sounds." And this is like 80s headphones technology.
Sure,
We're not talking like space.
Well, if you had a Sony Walkman, they had a type of headphone that was new at the time that had a different magnet in it that wasn't used in any other headphones prior to that.
Okay.
That really did make them a lot better than the
Like
average
sound.
headphone.
Yeah, those are probably the cheapest headphones you can get today. Probably have that. in it
Probably, yeah.
already, or
Probably,
that design or some sort of derivative thereof. But yeah, but he wasn't at all intimidated by this kind of stuff. And I'm just using those as anecdotes, right? It was fun being around him as a young man because he was he was like 2 or 3 generations beyond me. And but it was like we had this weird kind of friendship because I was like, what's new and upcoming? And he was like the tradition and there was, don't get me wrong. The guy had he gave me a tremendous amount of wisdom because of his life experience and stuff. I just had to sort of translate it into.
So was that the first time that he had heard anything on headphones? Or
it was the first time he'd ever put on a pair of headphones. It was the first time he ever put on a pair of sneakers.
Okay, so what do you think? Can you imagine what it might be that when you are his age?
I can't. I know. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But is it because can you not?
My grandkids are going to bring me that I'm going to be like, what the hell?
Will there be anything?
I'm certain there will be.
Are you sure?
Sure. Okay, why wouldn't there be?
Well, how many years are we talking about? I have grandkids.
Bro, there's shit already that I see that I go, holy crap, that's real. Like, okay, like when you put it in the context of just the last 47, 50 years, you look at the things that are happening almost on a daily basis now, and it's like, holy crap, that's real. Like the strange things that are going on in material science and physics and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Like our grandparents were a little more Luddite than not, right? They were a little more resistive of things like technology.
Well, I guess another way of framing this is to say that even though my grandparents drove vehicles and stuff,
right,
they would have had a hard time believing that there would ever be such a thing as a autopilot, like we were talking about earlier.
Right. Like Tesla or whatever,
right.
Where a car can just drive you to where you want it to take you, and it takes you there safely.
But I can't imagine like it being that much difference between now and when I die. If I was to live to be 80, that's about 40 years. I can't imagine anything in the next 40 years that would be so different that I had not conceptually at least experienced it.
I think the opposite's happening though. Let me throw this one out to you. I think we get to a point eventually, sort of as a philosophical evolution, where we get to the point where
yes,
where we get to the point where it's like, hey,
nothing surprises you.
If you download this app on your phone, it makes your penis bigger, and then it does,
right?
And everybody goes, well,
you.
Of course it does. I just
right.
saw, like where we become. I'm using it as a terrible example, but where we get to a point where, like you said, nothing actually surprise. When you see something, you're like, eh. Like, well, of course it would. Like, I've been surprised so much that I'm no longer surprised.
That's possible.
By anything.
Yeah, maybe we call that future numb.
Is that like the opposite extreme of it? Right.
Instead of future shock and you don't know what's going on, you just integrate with everything because you're used to constant change and constant integration. And I guess that's maybe what I'm getting at is that by the time we're at that age, we're going to be so inundated with constant change that we really can't be surprised anymore,
right.
Like you're saying, things change constantly.
Are you, when you hear something now, don't you feel that your level of surprise at the achievements and things that are being discovered is less?
Yeah, definitely. And it's weird, dude, because I have, in nostalgic moods, have tried to encapsulate in the best way possible what it might be that I could do to get back to the feeling that it used to feel like when you would truly stumble upon something new and innovative, like and
like
a lot
the
of
novelty of it or whatever. Like Oh, like, this is so cool! I've got to know everything I can. About this
and to be more precise, like just as an example, right? And it could be different for other people, but maybe people around my age will know. Like the first time maybe that you went and seen Star Wars or The Empire Strikes Back, and it was like You'd never seen
Bro,
anything like it.
Aren't you really saying, though, you're trying to capture that first kiss? And that's
Yeah.
impossible,
Oh, yeah.
though, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Well, I mean, a kiss is a bit more. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Ultimately, the answer
Okay.
is yes. It's an ephemeral situation that you're never going to capture, right? But you think you might be able to recapitulate it, that you might be able to recreate it in some way, right? But the problem
what is the next new?
Yeah, and the
first
problem
kiss kind of
is those
situation?
leaps are happening so quick now. You're never going to get that feeling
Right.
of a paradigm shift. It's like you're never going to have that whole experience where everything has changed. You're just going to be minor changes. All these Marvel movies, they just keep getting better and better with the CGI,
Yeah.
but it's little increments that you see. It's not like all of a sudden on the scene there's this paradigm shift in everything. And it's not just, I'm not just talking about Star Wars and stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of things like that happened in the period, say, between 1935 and, say, 1990.
Right.
In that era, there was these slow paradigm shifts,
Right.
that started coming about, One
But
of
that's
those was
more-
the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Like at some point, the internet was so big of a deal because nothing like it had ever existed. But by the time internet 2.5 whatever came along, that second with the HTML or whatever. Like
we're talking about two different things. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, that was like a little bit of a lesser
Right.
jump. It wasn't such a paradigm shift. It was just an improvement on something.
Right.
And I think they got HTML5 now. Or
something like that.
Yeah.
That's one part of programming I don't follow.
Yeah,
at
I
all.
see. Yeah, I
know
don't
what
follow. I just see it,
hypertext
yeah.
markup language. I know some of that shit, but beyond that, I don't. Ugh, it's very text and structured and yuck.
Same thing in sound too. There's a constant march in the improvement of sound recording techniques and sound generation and stuff. But for so long prior to this,
but see, the thing is we're past the point of doing it really, really good. What's happening now is who it's available to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because 20 years ago, to have a digital recording studio, you better have some ducks. Like, you got to have bank to pull that kind of stuff off.
Yeah.
10 years ago, you still had to be a major production kind of studio, but people were sort of starting to get it at home.
Mm-hmm.
Today, who the fuck goes to the studio anymore, man? You just have your own stuff, you just do it yourself. You get a good mic, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
And if I don't understand how to structure a room or how to set things up so that the audio quality is quite good enough, there's YouTube. I just go look it up and someone explains it to me.
But you can see within this podcast in and of itself where you've ran across people that are wanting to integrate into it and they haven't been able to do it. So it's something that
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating watching how something as simple as boxed hardware can be a hurdle for people that are trying to do something. Like, it's too scary for people that are like in my peer group. It's like, oh, mixers? Really? Can you just do it? Like, it's like, yeah, I can, but you got to come here. But yeah, to your point, like, yeah, right. And that's even right inside my own peer group. And we've been here for all of this most recent kind of stuff, right? And seeing people that are having a hard time integrating that. Future shock.
There was, I think the last big change that I really remember experiencing personally in that sense, that nostalgic sort of sense, was when everybody started playing Magic the Gathering. And it was such a big thing that swept everywhere, and the birth of the collectible card game started happening, and all these people who were playing role-playing games were selling their books so that they could buy booster packs of Magic cards and building decks, and the cards had, the rarities were increased because they really were hard to get in some instances back then, and they were worth a lot of money.
Just a level of excitement sort of that was in bed.
Yeah, because we hadn't done it. It was new. It was expansive, and it had value. The cards actually had value that was more value, I think, than a lot of them today. And so when you would play a game and ante them, there was this excitement.
Right.
It's akin to like gambling, you know.
Sure, there was an actual component of loss involved in it, for
and
sure.
Now it just because there's been so many cards produced, so many rules, so many variations.
It's just like everything else; it got overdone and watered down.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's what it feels like.
But don't you think though that the evolution of that was then like things like Pokemon Go? There's a tremendous amount of excitement about that when that came out in the app, and now there's like a Harry Potter version of it. Like it's happening again. It's just recycled as something
it's
different.
Successfully made the leap into the world of apps and smartphones where everything takes place nowadays. Like there's a lot of board games that's very successful as apps. Like I play Lords of Waterdeep with the expansions and stuff, and before I ever actually played the tactile game, I played it for a long time
digitally
on iPad. Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Like, well, the entry point into so many different things like role-playing games, whereas it used to be you bought a box set, and then it was you went to the hobby store and you bought books, and hopefully someone in town understood it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like you just buy this box, put the disc in, and then you create a character, and it prompts you along, and away you go.
Yeah.
The evolution of all of these sort of massively multiplayer role-playing games has all been derivative of that whole gaming system that was created.
And in compensation, the RPG paper, like book industry,
right?
Tabletop games, they started making these 300 and 400 page long, gigantic
like tomes.
Yeah, man. Like we're used to. Like you said, you got a box set and you had like maybe a 32-page book
you just sort of
a 94-page book.
What you quickly learned was you make a lot of this up as you're going along, which I credit, by the way, to being a salesperson for 20-some years.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Learning to
you just got enough to get you started.
On the fly, right.
But these big giant tomes, man, I think are how they compete with the video games. You know, they have to have like a whole package. They have to have the world and the rules.
You got to feel like you're getting some value for the purchase kind of thing, like something you can hold.
But that just makes it harder to propagate, man. Those are intimidatingly large books. They're time-consuming to learn and digest.
I'm hearing an opinion here.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's good. I mean, they do fast start rules, but it's fast start rules to get you to buy these big books, right?
Right.
Where, and you know, I like big books, and I have.
They give you just a little bit of the crack to kind of get you bought in, and then next thing you know,
now
you're
buy
on
the $75 book.
Yeah, you're on a $200 a week fucking habit.
But it would just be like, I think for $10 you could get a Dungeons and Dragons starter set or something, and then like $12 with the hardback books if you wanted those.
This isn't like it's $80s.
Yeah,
though.
I know. See, this is the sure sign of old age. You start bitching about. It's $12 back in the day for a hardback.
Fucking inflation. I can't buy my dice anymore. It used to be. I remember back in the day when you get $5 and you could buy a pack of dice.
Yeah,
that's gonna be your freaking.
Yeah, like
your grandparents was like, I could buy some penny gum. I could take $1 and I'd have so much candy that.
That's true. And a can of sardines.
Yeah.
Packed of mustard sauce.
Some Spam.
Yeah, always a good choice. It's like today when I was probably the only guy posting on that Charlie Sheen page.
Oh, I almost subscribed to that because of you bastard. God damn it. I went down the wormhole of Charlie Sheen. And that's like a blue check mark, Charlie Sheen's personal Facebook page.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's a good. I think it's one of them things. It's like you visit it every now and then, but you don't want to. You don't want to live there.
I don't know.
Do you
I
actually
rarely
subscribe to his personal Facebook?
I think I did. Yeah, I think he had me.
I almost did.
I think he had me with Winter Sheen dinner. He was going on this rant, like on YouTube,
right?
And it was just crazy. I don't know what the hell. He's like on drugs.
I think
or
he's got some sort of deal with plentyofhose.com or whatever that website. And I don't mean that. I'm not saying that to be derogative. I mean, go visit Charlie Sheen's freaking page and you understand why I'm saying that. But yeah, that's what I was like. Okay, like every other post is like a promotion for something that obviously he would be promoting. You know, and I was like, all right, this is a little cliche for me.
You're 16. It's a Saturday night. what's the first thing that you comes to mind that you were doing? Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
Right,
baby. Nerding out.
Nerding out. Right on, baby. Yeah, unfortunately true. Yeah, it was awful.
See what, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That would have been like 1987.
Yeah.
For me.
That's right. That makes sense.
So
Dungeons and Dragons and Lego box sets, man. That was my you know what I mean?
That was right before I started driving, so I was heavily into D&D. So I didn't have a girlfriend or a car, and I got those at 17.
Do you remember? I bet you don't. I remember riding around with you in a car that didn't have brakes.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Could you pull that off today? You know?
No, I'd be terrified.
But I can remember that, like riding in your car and you're like, oh, by the way, my brakes don't work real good, so I got to make sure I start stopping way in advance.
Way in advance.
God. And you, even back then though, man, you were like, you had videotapes. You would constantly run around with a video camera in your car.
Yeah.
And you were like the first
VHS
person.
tape.
You had VHS tapes of people jumping out of their cars and trying to fight with each other and shit. Yeah. And I was like, so like today we call those like fail videos and different stuff because everybody's got one. But back and then in the 80s, you were like a pioneer and you had these videos of people jumping out of their cars and fighting with each other and shit.
You just find a lot of that around town, you know, where we live.
I got to give you mad props, my friend. That was, you were a visionary. And think how many decades ago that was.
Dude, I had that video camera one night and I left it at what was his name? Jeff Johnson's house.
Okay.
You remember him?
I do,
down
yeah.
in the basement
Yeah.
and play D&D there. And I think that might have been where I met you first.
No, we
Where'd I
worked
meet you
together.
first?
That's how I met you.
Oh,
Through a
was it?
mutual friend, we worked together when you
But
started
I've
working.
seen you down there. We gamed down there.
Maybe. Dude, that's fucking literally like what, 30, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
It's crazy.
I left it in his house, man, and like me and Rick Apston came back and I said, man, I got to go in there and get it. And it was all like dark and stuff. So we snuck in to the house and snuck into Jeff's room. And he was in there having sex with his woman. It was pitch dark, dude. And like I totally crawled across the floor while they're humping.
Oh my God.
Just going at it. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I found the camera. I had to fumble around in the dark for it, get past some sneakers and stuff and find it. And came out with that camera and was like, Jesus, you know. It was the weirdest thing.
So let's put this in context though, because back then, a video camera was worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
It was a big freaking deal if you had one.
And believe it or not,
you were like the only person I knew. You were the first time, actually, you were the first person I ever saw a video camera, like where I actually saw one and could touch it. I'd only like seen it. Well, I'd seen them in like stores and shit, but you know what I mean? Like where it was outside of a controlled environment. And I was like, holy shit, this dude's got a video camera.
My aunt that I spoke so fondly of earlier was letting me borrow it. That's why I had to get it back that night.
Dude, that so shocked me, right? Bro, it's so sad, right? Because I can remember, number one, I can remember seeing color television for the first time. Now, that's more of a sort of example of being, poor Appalachian than it is the time that I was born and raised in.
I remember when Channel 10 first started broadcasting in color. I was a little tiny
you
kid.
got me beat, but you're a little bit older than me, right?
Yeah, and I was really young when this happened. But I used to watch
what are you doing right now?
Double Chiller Theater. And it was always in black and white, and then
the great horror movies and stuff that were on Friday nights after the
Night Out Theater,
before the national anthem was played, which a lot of people don't know today. That there was a point in time where television just stopped.
Yes.
Like there was a point.
Yeah, you were done. It's time to get to bed.
You had three channels. And at certain points in time, every night they'd play the national anthem, and it went to static until the next morning. There was nothing.
Ant races.
Crazy, right? And that's what woke you up a lot of times. If you were setting, If you like hanging out with your brothers or whatever, you know, cousins, or having a sleepover, and you would all stay up late on that weekend night, watch those horror movies. You'd all fall asleep before the horror movies were over, and what woke you up and told you to go to bed was the because the television station was now off the air.
That's right.
It was just white noise, static coming from the television. Okay. Do you think anybody's even listening to this shit anymore, man?
Yeah, maybe. We got a lot of older audiences, right?
I fucking hope so, man.
And that's local and know what Night Owl Theater is.
Well, no, that was a pretty common, that sort of double creature feature or whatever, that was a really common thing around the United States for a while, for a couple decades, like 20 years, because most of them started in black and white.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
A lot of the Universal monster pictures.
Because there was not only, you know, if you're from the Midwest, then you know who Fritz the Night Owl was, right? And the iconic, like, Night Owl glasses that he had. But there was Elvira. There was others that did, like,
down south when I moved down to Texas.
I actually think Wolfman Jack even did it for a while too, if I can remember right. Which you Google him if you don't know who he is. But
right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying down south.
They had Elvira when I moved down in 1980 to Powderly, Texas.
Texas, right? Yeah, she was like a southern thing for sure. Yeah, Fritz the Night Owl played like jazz music and different stuff. That's how you like, if you were from the Midwest and you got introduced to jazz, it was Fritz the Night Owl giving you the different weird, because he would just go on, instead of there being commercials per se, and then he would go on and end up talking just for like 3 minutes. And while he was talking, he would play music. There was music in the background that he would talk about.
And he'd be talking about the movie like, I don't think that Karen realizes the knife.
Like he was he was almost like he was like, it was like a intermission, and now we're going to narrate what's been going on, right?
Yeah.
That's that. Now it's funny because that has evolved, and now it's people on YouTube who do reviews. This is like one of my new guilty pleasures. And I shared one the other day. It was a guy that was like a hip hop fan. It was raised as a hip hop fan. His name is No Life Shack.
Never seen that yet.
Okay, and he does. So he does, like, he records himself while he listens to all types of music, including hip hop. But the ones that got me interested in him was when he would do a review of like a classic band, like a metal band or something like that. And the last one was Rush, and it was the song Spirit of Radio. And, this is a very Caucasian sort of band. Not that it has any sort of aspirations for race or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it was just one of them type of bands that was just heavily adopted. Like Led Zeppelin is primarily even you think of Led Zeppelin fans, you think of long-haired, greasy white kids in jean jackets, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And to watch him go through and listen to like different bands and stuff and have a reaction for the first time of hearing it gives me that nostalgic sort of, where I'm like, oh, I remember the first time I listened to, I got it with my kids or the Beatles or whatever, Pink Floyd or whatever it is, right? But it's funny because now this is a new thing on YouTube where people go out and do these reviews for a type of music or art or genre that they were never into, and then they do a review of it as they're listening to it and give a reaction. Reactions, that's what they're called, not reviews. They're called reactions. It's really, really cool. That's like I said, it's one of my new guilty pleasures on YouTube. It's fun. So what do you think, man? 2 hours, 22 minutes. You want to about wrap us up here?
I better. I got work tomorrow.
I know, right? Jesus, I need my eyeballs, Mr. Smith. I can't read anything anymore.
It's like midnight.
This is going to be like the old man hour on podcasting if we keep this bitching about.
Remember when there was static on the TV?
Oh, back in the good old days when you had to turn the antenna to get the television station you wanted to watch.
Doctor Who.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a rating on iTunes and etc. We really appreciate it. If you like what we do, please give us a share. And we will catch you all next time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bicycles.